So let's look first, though, at the impact on global energy markets, the disruption that threatens supplies. It could push up prices, as you heard there, for oil and gas right around the world. The Middle East, of course, a huge player in extracting, refining and shipping global supplies. Let's speak to Mel Idrios, who's Secretary General of the International Gas Union. Mel, good to have you with us. And just talk to me about the significance of that, particularly, first of all, the Strait of Hormuz and the disruption there. What is it likely to do to global supplies?
Well, it's a very significant disruption, recognizing that 20% of the global LNG supply does flow through the Strait of Hormuz. And to the extent that we can't get that product out, it's leading to a very tight market, which then we're seeing significant price spikes, not knowing how long the conflict will remain.
Yes, and it's that uncertainty, of course, that means it's very difficult for maybe consumers to try and source other alternatives. And what's interesting, though, we saw after the war in Ukraine that a lot of countries, particularly in Europe and elsewhere, look to diversify the supply of oil and gas to get other sources. We know, though, that takes time. How dependent is the rest of the world on that very narrow waterway?
Well, when you look at the Qatar LNG supply from a European perspective, it only accounts for about 8% of the supplies into Europe. Just in 2017, that was about 37%. So it's declined to 8%. But it only declined in terms of percentage, not volume, because the volumes that are being imported into the European Union and Europe presently are much, much higher than they were back in 2017. But the vast majority of the LNG that comes out of the Strait heads to Asia. That's where the LNG goes.
Yes, and what's interesting too about how oil and gas is priced is not necessarily immediately where you buy it from, but from global prices. And so even if you're not a direct importer of that stuff, you may still find that your price goes up.
Yes, as the market has evolved and has become global, which is something that is a very positive move, we continue to see that development. There is a lot more spot cargoes that are available versus long-term pricing indexed contracts. And it is those short-term, more flexible cargoes that are commanding now a much higher price in order to determine where they will ultimately deliver the product.
Yes, and that's a challenge. And now I'm just looking at the current prices for all that stuff. I mean, US crude up by nearly 7%, Brent crude up nearly 7% too, gas prices up just shy of 5%. If they stay at those elevated prices, you know, what are the alternatives? Where will we get this stuff from, if not from the Gulf? And what impact does it have on consumers? Because we know it can have effects everything through from transport to the price that we pay for goods in a supermarket.
Yes, the market is on the LNG side is very tight. We're also at the end of the heating season in the Northern Hemisphere, in particular Europe, where storage is now depleted to levels of less than 30%, which is the lowest level we've seen in recent history. So the alternatives are limited. There is a significant amount of new LNG supply that will be coming to the market, but it's not immediate. So we need to deal with the short-term implications, which basically will ultimately result in demand-side management. It will involve in greater energy efficiency. I mean, we as citizens can do a lot to reduce our electricity consumption, gas consumption. Just turning the thermostat down 1 or 2 degrees helps a lot. So there's a lot of things that we can do in the short term that helps mitigate the risks brought upon by the reduced supply of the product.
Mel, really good to talk to you. Thanks for being with us. Mel Idrios there, the Secretary General at the International Gas Union. Appreciate your time. Thank you. So that's energy markets.